Alright, you guys, Hornblasters install 2025 Silverado ZR2. This is a sweet truck. This is the Rage 3-liter air horn kit, so whatever, the 4-chime. I'm going to show you guys how to do the install on this, and then we'll get into how it sounds and what my thoughts are. And as you can see, it's already been installed, so we're going to rewind time and go to the install portion of this. Alright, we got the Hornblasters kit. Apologize about my voice, I'm just coming off being sick, but today we are going to install a train horn kit. This is going to be a 2025 Silverado. So this is as new as it gets because I'm filming this in 25. So I got the whole kit out. Obviously yours is going to come packaged. This we'll touch on later. But essentially here's what you get. Compressor pump right here. You get the horns like this. You get some wire, legit speaker wire, okay? Not really sure what's up with that. You get some instructions that are mediocre. You get this little fuse block. You get your air line. Essentially, this should be everything you need to install the kit. However, you guys, Hornblasters, I'll give you guys a shout out. Dude, it's just junk. Like, all this junk, plastic, butt connector, garbage. So, I'm really disappointed with that because I know this is a DIY kit, you know. Professionals aren't usually the ones installing this kit. It's going to be guys that are just trying to hack it up on their truck, which I can understand, and I'm not picking on you if that's you. But what I am saying is this stuff's pure garbage, and I'm probably not going to use a lot of it. Obviously the fuses and stuff. But you guys, do not use this junk. This is how you end up with wiring issues that you can't figure out, and then you try to revert it, and you got damaged wire harnesses. Especially when you're dealing with, you know, a brand new truck. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. So, you may sound like I'm being dramatic about it, but here's the deal. I do a lot of performance work. We're going to use a real relay kit. I mean, the way they want you to do this is they want you to use these and stick them on the bottom of the relay and then just let this thing dangle and let these connections potentially fall off and get corroded, and it's just a joke. So we're going to use an actual relay kit. You for sure can buy these even on Amazon. Just buy a higher quality one. So all you need is the 4 pins, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going through the instructions right this second, but I'm just telling you before you do this, do yourself a favor, get a relay kit, save you a ton of time and energy. But it's really simple. Your horns get fed with air pressure. They're already plumbed. So at this point, and I haven't even looked at this yet, there you go. There's where you're plumbing air in, right there. So obviously they give you an air line to do so, which is right here. So that obviously is going to get plumbed to that, which then is going to get plumbed to the compressor. The compressor has no real good instructions on it, but for DIYers, guess what? Pretty hard to mess up. Black, red. Now, this is going to be a high current draw item. It is a compressor. So these need high current wire. I'm just going over basics with you guys. This right here is not a high current item. This is a solenoid. So this is not going to be high current. This is going to be less than 10 amps for sure. Yeah, so from the momentary contact switch, 10 amp fuse. So there you go. Where are you going to add your switches? So this is the kick panel from the driver's side, and this is a busy truck. There's a lot going on under here, under the kick panel. If you guys can see, there's this whole reinforcement and whatnot. So it's pretty challenging to actually figure out where you're going to be able to fit switches on this kick panel. Sure, you could start going crazy and you could punch a hole through here. You could try to make it look factory, but These are cheap to replace. Just a piece of plastic. That's all it is. So, I shouldn't say cheap. I don't know how much they are, but for sure less than anything else you're going to modify on the inside of the truck. So, this right here, that's the momentary contact switch. I designed it so that, if you look, this will snap in. It fits in this little gap between the relays. The next thing I need to find, and this is how you activate the horns. It's a momentary contact. So when you press, it's going to make a connection, which is it's going to basically ground that solenoid on the horns. So it's going to open it up. You're also going to need the toggle switch. The toggle switch to turn the compressor on, like such. So this should be a pretty easy deal if you're familiar with wiring, okay? A relay does what? It uses a low current circuit to complete or to connect or to make contact with a high current circuit. So that's why in relay kits, you're gonna have 2 big wires and 2 little wires. So one of these little wires is gonna get grounded. One of these other little wires is going to be going through our on and off switch. So what that means is when we turn this on, which it was in the on, but when we turn this on, it is going to connect your 2 low wire circuits, which is then going to pass high current through the relay. So they give you a relay, which is, I don't know how good these relays are, made in China, whatever. So, blue wire, red wire, doesn't matter. Your relay colors may be different, but one of the big wires on your relay is obviously going to go to 12 volts. It's going to go to your battery. And in fact, it's not going to go straight to your battery. You're going to want to make sure you got it fused, which they give you, I don't know why they give you so many fuses in this kit. Maybe it's because it will continue to blow fuses. Well, we'll figure that out. Now, looking at this wire that's on here, this is not great wire. So, Hornblasters, once again, I understand you guys are trying to take this market over for easy train horns, but the quality is pretty poor, in my opinion. You could at least have used real copper strand if you're going to use, what is this, 12 gauge, maybe 10, maybe it says on it. Anyways, I'm losing you guys that aren't real technical. So, anyways, I'm going to show you where I mount this. Obviously, that's going to vary per truck. You're going to have to find an area to mount this guy and this guy underneath the truck. You're then going to have to figure out a way to get the wires from this and this into the engine bay, battery compartment, whatever else. And then you're going to have to find a way to get wires, at least one wire from this, and at least one wire from that through your dash or to the outside, which that actually might be the most tricky part aside from the momentary contact switch. So enough talking. I'm going to install it, and then I'm going to show you how I did it, and then we can also test it, see if this thing actually does what it's supposed to do. All right, you guys, excuse me. So I'm about, 2 hours in, 2.5. I'm moving a little slow because I'm sick, but I'm just going to show you this. If you're trying to do a professional install and you're trying to make this modular, meaning you can pull it off and put it back on, if you live in like a Midwestern climate, last thing you're going to want is all this stuff exposed when you're getting snow and ice, everything else up under the truck. Yes, you could argue that you could conceal it. This will be under a big splash shield, so it's not like that will be super exposed. But at the very least, it's a brand new truck. I want to make this least invasive as possible. So with that being said, I got some custom brackets made, M6 right through the chassis, M6x10, some red Loctite on them. And then I have these, which really are just brackets I had laying around. that I got rib nuts on it. So I can just bolt it in. It'll rest just like that. It'll kind of point downward a little bit. And then got to run my air line still. Got to build an electrical connector for this. That way we can just unplug everything, pull it off the truck when winter comes. The L bracket they give you is not ideal for a lot of spots. And these horns are not, they're not small. I mean, this takes up a decent amount of space. This run from here to here, 1.5 feet easy. So here's what else you're gonna run into on the compressor, just so you know what you're getting into. This compressor has little legs on it. You can't bolt the compressor any orientation except for this way. One, because you're going to get water condensation going to come up and clog the switch. And then two, because your drain, I'll show you here, your drain is on the bottom. Now that presents an issue, because if you got nowhere just to set it, well, where the heck are you going to just set it underneath a brand new Silverado? And this isn't just for Silverados, this would apply for most of the modern trucks. So what I did, these are Stinson, these are actually deck supports. I had them laying around though, so they're gonna work just fine. They're not super heavy duty, but they'll easily support the weight of that compressor. And then we're gonna have to do, which I don't like doing, but we're gonna have to drill it into the frame. Obviously do a clean job and make sure there's nothing butchered on it, but there's really no other way around that. I mean, he asked about potentially even mounting this in the cab, which you could, but then the problem with that is every time this compressor kicks on, which is going to be every single time you use the horn, you're going to hear this compressor going. So probably not super ideal. I'm very curious how fast this will actually rebuild air pressure, because that is a very tiny pump. So we'll find out. But yeah, just so you know what you're getting into, this is not going to be a plug and play. I haven't even started on the wiring yet. Obviously, I got the relay wiring ready to go. That actually won't be super hard. The time-consuming part might be building connectors for those wires. And then obviously we're going to have to run wires, the heavier gauge wires, to the actual compressor. So I'll update you again once I get this stuff mounted. But yeah, so far, just want to hit you guys with a reality check. If you want a professional install, it's going to take you some time. So here's the very, very fun part. When you start to go fishing. All right, we are way into the woods now. So, update, So a little update, we're doing the wiring. So I showed you guys this before. So we have a momentary contact switch. So we press that, and then we have an on and off switch. So, just to recap, your momentary contact switch, write this down if you need help with this. Your momentary contact switch, one of them needs a connection to the battery. So, connect to the battery or strong 12-volt source, something that can move some current. I wouldn't recommend tapping into a radio fuse or something like that. That's going to be up to you. Second wire needs a path to the solenoid on the horns, which is obviously in the engine bay, wherever you mounted the horns. So, again, the switch to press, one goes to the battery, one is going to go to the horns. And then from the horns, you have two wires on the horns. The second wire on the horn obviously needs to go to ground. So when you press the switch, you're completing the 12-volt circuit to ground. So I have ran, if you guys can see that, I went through the hood switch, or not hood switch, hood cable. I went through the hood cable grommet. Had to make some modification there. These new vehicles are no joke. The firewall is sealed off and it is very hard to get your hand in there. But we got the momentary contact switch mostly wired up. Secondly is going to be your on-off switch. Your on-off switch is going to be a path to ground for the low side of your relay. So, if you look at this, okay, 2 wires. This one is going to ground. This one is going to the relay, which I have in the engine bay, which is this wire here. And then obviously you need a way to turn the relay on with 12 volt power when you turn the key on. So, with that being said, I found power. If you're working on a newer, well, I don't know what year this will apply to. This is a 2025, I believe. 2024, one of the two. But I'll just show you here quick. Oh, there's a very top, you're sideways right now, but the very top of the fuse box has a pin that gets powered up when you turn the ignition on. So I ran that wire down across through the dash out into the engine bay to the relay that I have right here. So this might look like a little bit of a complicated deal. It's not. I have this all sealed off because we're in Minnesota. I have to do that. Anyways, you have 2 small wires, 2 big wires. The one big wire on the relay goes to the battery, just like on your momentary contact switch. So if you look over there, you will see I have a blue and a red wire over there. The blue is the small wire, that's for the momentary contact switch, which is inside. The big wire is one of the big wires off the relay. It's the high current side of the relay. The other side of the relay, which in my case is going to be this blue wire right here, comes from the other side of the relay, is going to go to the compressor, which I have mounted under the truck. You do absolutely want to fuse that circuit. If you remember, they sent you a 30 amp fuse holder, which is, ignore my box, it is a mess, right here. So I'm going to cut that. One end's going to go on the battery. One end is going to connect to that wire I got sitting over by the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and get this hooked up. You are going to want to disconnect your battery, so I'm going to take the ground off this. We're going to disconnect it. We're going to hook everything up, and then we're going to get into testing. All right, so we're all done with the install. Little overview. So this is the finished product. It is fully functional. So be prepared. They send you legs on the actual compressor. There's no bracket. So it's something to keep in mind. This gauge, I tried to spin it. I'm not going to sit there and mess with it because they just wedge it in there. So there's no way to actually monitor the gauge unless you got a mirror. But I did test it. It does shut off at 120 psi, which that works. So we're happy there. So here's why I did this. You guys probably see this wire here, and then obviously it is bolted to the frame. It's bolted to the frame, so I got a good ground reference. I can unbolt the entire thing, disconnect the airline, cap it for wintertime, easy deal. These are obviously nut connections taped up so I can easily take them apart. But I noticed without this right here, it would kind of vibrate. So one of the things you're going to want to do, and I was smart enough to do it, but if you see up in there, it's kind of hard to see because my headlight's trying to do the job, but they're rubber isolators that are mounting this with rib nuts on the bottom. Now, reason you want rubber isolators, this thing's going to vibrate. You don't want to feel that inside the truck or car. And then this will keep the whole thing from oscillating really bad. So, airline I plumbed through the frame rail, away from the heat, away from all that stuff. And it comes out right there, swoops down, comes over the front using factory connectors, and then gets plumbed right into this tree of air horns. So, the wiring, similar deal. I have an actual weather seal connector here that's taped up. Again, this is, if you live in winter climates, you may want to disconnect your system and put it away for winter. So, but yeah, the system turned out awesome. Look at that factory finish. Made sure to seal everything up. So if you're wondering where I mounted it on this truck, we'll zoom back. So this is right in front of the fuel tank, behind the transfer case, obviously. That was the best spot, at least in my opinion. Now, you could probably put it over here or in between the rockers, somewhere like that, but that's what we ended up going with. So, I did test the system. You guys are going to hear it. See what you guys think in the comments. All right, we got kind of our final overview of the interior wiring. So, it's a good ground right over here. You're going to have to plumb some wires up, like I said before. And your switches, I think that's the most important fit and finish. So, toggle switch I put on the bottom, kind of right by the hood latch. And then, obviously, your train horn right there. So, it's pretty cool. As far as under hood, I recommend you make it tidy. So, here's the relay harness. It's all taped up, it's all weather sealed, and plumbs through the firewall down towards the front of the vehicle over there, and then the back of the vehicle down the frame rail to the compressor pump. So, and then as far as running the wire, so the wires ran under the cowl all the way across. So I got to go ahead and put those clips back in. But yeah, it's a job well done. This is a sweet truck, man. I'll tell you that right now. Let's go outside and listen. Tell me what you guys think. So, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on so you guys can hear it. Sorry about the glare there. So this is from the outside. We'll do both inside and outside. Not too loud. Not super loud in the truck. You can definitely hear it, but it's not, not anything obnoxious. So I stopped it halfway through. Truck's running. I want to see how it sounds with the truck running. Yeah, not terrible. If you had the music on, you probably wouldn't hear it very much. But not exactly quiet. So, my take on it for an air horn compressor, not too shabby. That is a nice backup camera. Wow. You got kids that are watching, kind of funny. Gets their attention real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and sound the horn off. First off, look at what the lights can do.
Holy shit. That's scary. He almost jumped out of his clothes.
Hang on a second.